Hello, it's week 17 of season 7 of the Andy Griffith Show. Barney Fife is coming back this week to make a special guest appearance, and the name of the episode is A Visit to Barney Fife. Andy comes to the Raleigh Police Department and visits me. I'm working there now. I had sent him a letter saying there's something I wanted to tell him, and he finds me painting the office of the captain of detectives. And I tell him they like us to keep busy while we're waiting for something to break. It relieves the tension. And I tell him I've moved from the fingerprint division to the detective division. And then I say what I wanted to tell him was that I heard there was an opening coming up in our department. And he says not interested. And I say, now wait a minute, Ange. You are coming up here this month anyway. Don't say no just yet. And then you show him around the department in hopes that he'll change his mind about wanting to work there. And the secretary tells you, that minister that you arrested last week for loitering is going to sue us. And you say, I didn't know he was a minister. He was wearing a sports shirt. I couldn't tell. And I introduce Andy around. And then one of the guys tells me that we're out of towels in the men's room. And I tell Andy, we do little things for each other around here. And I show him my desk in the corner, and then a local newspaper that talks about the 10th supermarket robbery and a string of robberies we've been trying to crack. And I tell him, it's too smooth to be a one-man operation. It's got to be a gang. Every time we stake out in one area, they hit in another area. So there's got to be a leak somewhere in the bureau. Then you take Andy to the boarding house where you're staying. You tell him you moved up from the Y. And you say the family that runs the boarding house is great. And I introduce Andy to the Tarker family, Law and her 2 sons and her daughter. The sons say that they're between jobs right now, and the daughter is real friendly to me. And then I take Andy up to my room, and he says it's great. He admires the artwork on my wall, and I say, I tell you, Ange, you move to the big city, and you get on that culture kick, and you just want nothing but the best. And then we talk about the job opening again, and I say, it's like I told you, Ange, there's going to be an opening in my department, and I thought it would be a great opportunity to get you in there. And he says he's not interested, but I say, I already made an interview appointment for him this afternoon with my captain. And at lunch, the boarding house family wants to know how the supermarket robberies are going, how the investigation is going. And you say, well, the police are planning to set up stakeouts in the 2 north zones tonight. And Andy starts to tell you, Barney, should you be telling this confidential police information to civilians? And then at the job interview, the captain tells Andy that the job opening up is my job. They're going to fire me. Of course, I don't know that yet. And that night, Andy says, you ever think of coming back to Mayday, Barney? Your job is still open. And I say, that's awful nice of you, Ange, but I got everything going for me here. I got a big job. I got a terrific future, great social life. And then the Parkers come back from shopping. They always go shopping together. And Andy says they sure didn't buy much. And then we hear on the radio there's been another supermarket robbery, this time on the south side. And I say they hit the south side. We had them dig it to the north. That's the 8th time in a row we staked out 2 zones and they hit the 3rd. So you and Andy run down there, and the store manager's already there. He had heard about the robbery and he had shown up. And you think he's one of the robbers, so you arrest him. And your fellow detectives make you let him go and then send you out for coffee. And so the next day at lunch, Andy tells the Tarkers that today is Saturday. It's a big grocery shopping day. And there'll be a lot more cash in the grocery stores. But the police won't stake out the zone of last night's robbery tonight, 'cause this gang never hits the same area twice in a row. And that night the Tarkers say they're going to go to a movie. And Andy says, let's go to that store that got robbed last night and just look around. So you use your master key from the police department, and you and Andy go and sit in the store in the dark until you do hear robbers come in. And Andy turns on the lights, and you pull your gun on the robbers. They turn out to be the Parkers, taking money from the cash register. And I say, all right, Ange, you want to call the station and tell them to send a wagon over? I had my eye on you folks all along. Thought you were tumbling one over on me, didn't you? And then back at the station, I get a commendation from the captain. He's changed his mind about firing me, and he's given me a new desk. And then I send one of the other detectives out for coffee for a change. We'll see you next week for episode 19.